Hello again. Dirt Road FPV for Life here, just giving an update to my last video and the death of my Mobula 7 HD. First off, I want to give a shout out to Will at Grayson Hobby. I sent him a link to my video and he immediately responded back, and after watching it, he's contacted Happy Model to get me a new board and cable. If you don't know about these guys, check them out at graysonhobby.com. Not only do they have great availability in products, but incredible customer service. All the products they sell, they have a direct communication line to the manufacturer to help resolve things like this. In the meantime, I have many Caddx V2s and I have fixed it while I'm waiting on my replacement board. Here's some of the things I learned. First off, bind this thing in D8 mode. D16 will fail safe, and that's what caused my crash, which led to the Caddx board's death. Again, if you're flying in D16, stop now, go into the config and change in the configuration tab of Betaflight the SPI settings from FR-Sky X protocol to the FR-Sky_D protocol. Then rebind your model to D8 mode. Listen, you've been warned. It's going to fail safe in D16. Happy Model, if you're watching this, please send these factory default to D8. With that out of the way, let me tell you what I found out doing the replacement of this board. First thing, this is a very, very, very tight build. Be very careful and make sure you pay attention to how it comes apart. There's zero room for error and the parts are tiny. So if this is your first quad, be careful and pay attention, take pictures, make sure you know what you're doing, or seek some help from somebody that's done some building. Second thing to note is the Caddx camera itself on this model has a 13mm outside diameter lens. Not sure which Caddx lens it is because I have the V1 and 4 or 5 different V2s and I measured them all and they're all 15mm. So if you buy a Caddx V2, it's not going to fit in this canopy. You're going to have to make a slight modification if you're replacing it with a new camera. Should be an easy fix with a Dremel, a millimeter here and a millimeter there. My camera was fine, so I was able to use the original camera. I just had to replace the board. Third, if you break a camera, make sure you use the screws from the original camera. Happy Model has removed the protective cover, I don't know if we're going to be able to see this, the protective cover off the back of the camera, this black right here, so they would have room for camera adjustment. So with that said, just be real careful. I would take the screws from the original camera and replace it. It's also probably important that you should know that when you take this off, you're going to expose the sensor. So when you take it off, make sure that you put a finger down on there so you don't expose dust to your sensor board with the cover off. Again, just swap screws. It should be pretty simple. Next thing to note is you can use the connector that is by default on the Caddx V2. You can see right in here. Yeah, right in here. That is the actual full connector. Happy Model did not use that connector. They took it off and did a direct solder. I'm not exactly sure why they did that, other than maybe to save some weight, but you can use the connector. But there's some important things to know if you do that. The power lead that comes off the Happy Model that goes into the VTX. This would be the connector. This is where it connects to the VTX for power right here. It's actually smaller than the stock. This is the stock one, and it is 4.75mm wide, and it's a good bit longer than the one that plugs into the VTX for the Happy Model. So at first I thought it was going to be an easy pin swap. I didn't measure the actual one on the VTX, but again, just trust me, it's a good bit shorter and probably a millimeter less width here. So what I ended up having to do when I took the pins out, I realized they were shorter and they wouldn't fit either. So I ended up having to do a slight solder. I clipped the originals right here and then soldered on from there. Also, you can see by default on the Caddx that it is positive on the outside, negative, and then video. The VTX for the Happy model is the opposite. It goes ground on the outside, positive in the middle, and then video on the other side. So be mindful of that as well. All this being said, for an experienced builder, with a good pair of tweezers and a sturdy hand and a tiny soldering iron, it's not too bad. It just takes a little patience and time. So, is it fixed? You dang skippy it is. And in my humble opinion, despite the little issue I had, it's worth every single penny. Let's go check out some flight footage.